Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and I hope you enjoy what I have to say. I will be speaking of my story because it is quite a, oh my goodness, I would never have expected that. If somebody would have said to me at 14 years old, Christine, this is going to be your life path, I would have laughed them out of the park. So I'm going to really speak to you all about the importance of listening and how the importance of listening to my own self, my intuition, my gut instinct actually turned my life around probably another 30 years on from being 14 years old. At 14, I became very heavily involved into alcohol. I used it as a crutch. I had quite a bit of trauma when I was 14 years old. And again, that led on to being more traumatized when I was 15, 16. I was homeless. I suffered a very, very serious sexual assault when I was 17. And again, alcohol was always the thing that I used to go to. And instead of listening to my gut instinct telling me, Christine, back off this poison, I used it as my coping mechanism. I used it as my disguise. I used it as, hey guys, I'm all right. I am still that fun-loving person. And, you know, yes, I do dress up now. I do still love to be that fun-loving person, because that was the thing. When I started to take away the alcohol, I was very, very skeptical and very unsure of who I would become. Who would Christine be now that she doesn't have this in her life? And the reason that I decided and descended on that journey was after a period of time up until last year. So for 20 years, like Vikki did say, I was in the rat race. I was in creatives. I was an event florist, which took me all over the world, doing flowers for TV and film. And again, I was going on this journey, which I thought was my purpose there. And then I thought it was my purpose. It was all about connecting to earth, because again, I loved water. I love plants. Can you tell I love plants? I love plants. And everything like that, the colors, the whole being surrounded by nature appealed to me, but yet I was subduing it with these toxins. And what I decided, it wasn't really my choice, because I was quite happy going on for a certain period of time. Yes, there was that unfulfillment of, I need to do something else. There's something not quite right here. There's something missing. And I'm sure we've all felt that. And it wasn't until January of 2019 that I had a huge pull. I had a huge, something's telling me something. Something is really getting in there and telling me I need to do something. I need to be somewhere else. So I ventured from where I was. I got in my car and I drove home. And on doing so, I passed a gent who was to the right-hand side of me. And I thought, that's a little bit odd, whatever he's up to there. It looks a little bit peculiar. And I chose to drive on, again, not listening to my inner voice saying, Christine, stop. And I carried on. And then I got as soon as I stopped at the traffic lights, I had this huge calling, turn back round because you will live to regret this. And I turned round, and the regret I would have been faced with was that a man would have lost his life there and then. Because what happened is I stopped the car and he was over the safeguard rail of a motorway bridge. And I spent 30 minutes with this gent. Absolute, he poured his heart out to me because he was ready to end everything. And I sat and I listened. I didn't speak. I just listened. I said, and that is the importance. We have to stop speaking and we have to start listening, whether or not it's to self, whether or not it is to people around us, whether or not it's to our gut instinct and intuition. We have to listen. And in doing so, And I cradled this man. He was called Danny. He was an alcoholic. So there were so many things that I could resonate with him. He was an alcoholic. He'd just lost his brother. I just lost my father. So we were both going through the grieving process. He'd just split up with his wife. I'd been through two very, very, not very nice relationships. I was getting myself into more drinking. He was clearly an alcoholic, and he told me that. And he felt the black sheep of the family. And in doing this, and in doing and listening to him, I looked into his eyes and I saw myself. Now, that is a really powerful thing. We often get signs sent to us, but we don't choose to acknowledge them. Here I had the biggest wake-up call, the biggest sign. I was cradling him, and I was cradling myself. It was me I was cradling. And when help did come, Danny was obviously taken off to some good network, to some help. He had some help. And when I tell this story, I actually told this story to a friend of mine a couple of days later, and she said, Christine, you were his earth angel. And I said, well, actually, he was my earth angel, because he's put me on a new path. He's put me on a new platform of where I stopped drinking. I now have quit the floristry element of my life of 20 years to be a behavioural change expert. And I now help people go through reframing programs. And it's literally mind-blowing. Like I said, going back to that 14-year-old child, Christine, you're going to be doing this. I would never have believed it. And this is what I want to say. Don't always think that your life is mapped out by the way that you present yourself. Look for the signs, listen to your intuition, and listen to the people around you. Don't always speak. It's always about taking on board what you are seeing. This man thought he was worthless. And that to me is quite astounding, because we all have value and we all have worth. And, you know, I know that Kyle mentioned freedom. The biggest thing that I learned about listening to my own self and my own values was I learned how to free myself. I learned how to free myself from toxins. I learned how to free myself from the rat race. And I just implore anyone that is thinking that they're worthless, that they don't deserve things. I was like that last year. And now I am so happy to say I'm on a different path, a different venture. Oh, that's my timer. And, you know, there is always route for change. There's always elements of change, and it is achievable. You've just got to believe in yourself. And on that note, thank you so much. And I'll pass it over back to Vikki. Thank you.